nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
All right, what do you say we just hop right into it? I'm a year older and a year wiser. How you doing, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. I appreciate you joining me once again. Thank you again, everybody, for the birthday wishes. Yesterday, you guys were incredibly generous and incredibly kind with your birthday wishes and everybody reaching out to say happy birthday. So thank you once again to everybody, whether it was, people on Venmo, people just in the chat, text messages, whatever it was, family, friends, all of you guys. I really do appreciate it. Unfortunately, today, Wednesday, November 26th, we'll be talking about traitors in the White House. Not surprising, not stunning, but definitely something that is shocking to see. You know what I mean? I know that might be somewhat contradictory on that statement, but, I think you know what I'm saying. Like, we expected this. It's something you're not really surprised to see, but it's always shocking when it comes into your face like it is right now. Obviously, I'm talking about the recent Bloomberg reporting about, Witkoff coaching Russia on how to get the most favorable outcome, how they can manipulate Donald Trump. Like we know Donald Trump is easily manipulated. But before we get into all that, we'll be looking at, some statements Donald Trump made on Air Force One. We'll obviously be diving into the reporting from Bloomberg. I don't subscribe to Bloomberg, so we'll be taking a look at the AP's version of it. But I want to give credit where credit is due to the Bloomberg reporters. We'll also be taking a look at some great reporting done on X by some different Ukrainian journalists that were kind of diving through these transcripts and pulling out different parts that were, very surprising and should be reported on that. We'll be taking a look at Russian state propaganda, Russian state media, and what they're saying. And if it really sounds like this is a country that's trying to aim for peace, right? And is not just out for more bloodshed night after night like we continue to see. We'll also be hearing from President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, in his latest address, his latest video that he put out, because again, the reporting yesterday was all over the place, and it still is. I told you guys to be skeptical about this, the reporting about Ukraine accepting this peace deal, and seemingly I was right on that, because nowhere in Zelensky's latest video does he say it was accepted. Nowhere does it seem like they're any closer to peace. Even Donald Trump himself talking about how there's, still points to be worked out. It's crazy, talking about sending Witkoff to Russia now. Holding off on the meeting with Zelensky until there's a deal kind of finalized. The whole thing's crazy. But before we get into all of it, let's bring in the chat. Let's say hi to everybody. Why don't we throw you on the old screen? So I can say hi to you fabulous people. How's everybody doing? What's up, Chris? How are you, Amanda? How are you, everybody? Tiff, Tanya, all you guys. Dame, Forever Young, Yakov. What's up, my man? What's up, Anton? How are you? What's going on, Jackie? I appreciate you, all of you guys. What's up, David? How are you? What's up, Susie? What's up, Laurie, Roxanne, Jack? You guys are great. What's up, Kit? Vasantha, how are you? I appreciate you guys. All right, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 15,000 subscribers. Jesus, please let me get there so I can stop saying we're on our way to 15,000 subscribers, please, for the love of Jesus. All right, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you to all the mods. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for keeping that chat a safe place. Thank you for volunteering your time the way you do, not only here, but in other chats as well. But all right, let's dive into it. Thank you so much to everybody. I really do appreciate you. A multitude of different ways where you can help the channel if you're in a financial position to do so. There's a Venmo up in the corner. You can send a super chat into the chat here on YouTube. You can send a super sticker. You can sign up for a membership just below me here on YouTube for about $2.99 for the month. You can also gift memberships to other people in the chat. So multitude of different ways. You can also sign up at patreon.com/BostonBrian, yada, 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 rigmarole, bullshit done. All right, let's get into it. Let's dive into it. I appreciate it. And also thank you to everybody on this space. I always appreciate you guys. Thank you to Matt. Thank you to the mods over there for doing everything that you do as we are simulcast simultaneously over there on this space. So thank you to everybody over there. I really do appreciate being part of the coalition. But all right, let me bring this onto the screen so we can start diving into this nonsense, this bullshit that, again, is not surprising, but definitely kind of shocking to see it actually happening in real time from your own government, right? I mean, basically what we're doing is passing along the Nazi playlist, the Nazi wish list to, to Britain in 1940 and attaching our own kind of, threats attached onto that, which is just asinine to think. But yeah, we got traitors in the White House. There's transcript to prove it. Steve Witkoff, even now, some Republican politicians calling for Steve Witkoff to be fired. So, yeah, we'll get into all of that. Let me throw this on the screen for the 15th time as I say that. Yeah. So this is the AP, and it says report U.S. envoy coached Putin aide on how Russian leader should pitch Trump on Ukraine pitch plan. So basically, as we'll go through it, you'll see Steve Witkoff doing everything he can to get the Russians, to get Putin the most favorable outcome. Right. And this goes above and beyond the fact that the first release of a Russian document, of a Russian wish list, was then kind of, gone tossed back and forth on whether or not it was a U.S. document or not a U.S. document. Marco Rubio saying 10 different things, U.S. senators saying 10 different things. So this goes even above and beyond that whole fucking fiasco as well. So this says here, President Donald Trump's chief interlocutor with the Russian government last month advised a senior aide to Vladimir Putin on how the Russian leader should go about pitching the U.S. president on a peace plan aimed at bringing an end to Russia's war in Ukraine, according to a transcript of the call published by Bloomberg News on Tuesday. Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, according to a transcript of the October 14th call published by the news service, advised by Putin's foreign policy advisor, Yuri Ushakov, that Putin should call Trump to congratulate him for the Gaza peace deal. Right. So this is, butter him up, suck up to him a little bit, give him some praise on the world stage. And I guarantee you'll be able to get a more favorable outcome when it comes time to it. So he's coaching Vladimir Putin. He's coaching the Russians on, again, how to go about their foreign diplomacy, how to get the most favorable outcome. So from that, it's going to be a really good call, Witkoff said, according to the transcript. When asked by Russian state media to comment on Bloomberg's report, Ushakov did not question the recordings' authenticity, but said that they had not been leaked by Moscow. So this continuously is being, fingers are being pointed at this being leaked by the U.S., somebody in the U.S. intelligence agency, which also goes to show might prove that there are people inside this government that are extremely nervous, extremely worried about the way that these talks are going, and the way that Ukraine is being bullied, being pressured into, going along with what is essentially the Russian wish list. And any changes to that, I think we're all just kind of kidding ourselves if we think that Russia is going to agree to anything that is favorable in terms of, on the behalf of Ukraine. It's not going to happen. So let's see here. He also said that the calls had been leaked to hinder the U.S. ties. He says it's unlikely that this is being done to improve relations. Ushakov also said that he spoke with Witkoff by phone, quote, quite often, but refused to discuss the content of the recording. Quote, the essence of these conversations is that they are confidential. I won't comment. No one should comment. So again, backdoor dealings that they didn't want privy, they don't want anybody knowing about because they're, I don't even know how to really convey how crazy this is. The only way I can do it is to kind of put it in historical terms, right? I mean, that's just the only way that I could do it. The Bloomberg report came out as Trump on Tuesday said a proposal to end Russia's war in Ukraine had been fine-tuned and announced he's sending Witkoff to meet Putin in Moscow. The White House did not dispute the veracity of the transcript, and Trump described Witkoff's reported approach to the Russians in calls as, quote, standard negotiating procedure. And we'll take a look at the clip a little later of him saying that. He's got to sell this to Ukraine, and he's got to sell Ukraine to Russia, which is just, in and of itself, an amazing, just a remarkable statement for a U.S. president to be making about our ally in a time of war against an enemy. Just to say that our fucking advisor, right? Our fucking a special envoy in this situation, his job is to sell Ukraine to Russia. Just a remarkable statement. Air Force, that's what he told reporters on Air Force One as he flew home from Florida on Tuesday night. That's what a deal maker does, he says. But U.S. Rep. Don Bacon, a Nebraska Republican who had been critical of Trump's approach to Ukraine, said the transcript showed Witkoff favors the Russians. He said, quote, he cannot be trusted to lead these negotiations. Would a Russian paid agent do less than he? He should be fired, end quote, Bacon said on social media. Bloomberg said that it reviewed a recording of the call, but did not say how it obtained access to the recording. The Associated Press has not independently verified the transcript. The Witkoff-Ushakov call happened a day after Trump made triumphant visit to Israel and Egypt to celebrate sailing the Gaza ceasefire, hence the reason he wanted him to kind of congratulate him. Here's what I think would be amazing, and this is just a piece of it, and we'll go over different portions of the transcript as well. Witkoff said to his counterpart, according to Bloomberg, he said, quote, maybe he says to President Trump, Steve and Yuri discussed a very similar 20-point plan to peace, and that could be something we could think might move the needle a little bit. We're open to those sorts of things. So he's basically saying, this is what you should say to him. This is Steve Witkoff instructing the Russians on how to go about appeasing Donald Trump so they could get the most favorable outcome in these negotiations, which is wild to think about. Witkoff also suggested setting up a Trump-Putin call before Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's White House visit later that week, the visit that we covered, right, where we were kind of confused in the turn that Donald Trump, remember we were talking about how previously in a Truth Social post, and we cover this on the show as well, Donald Trump was, just randomly came out, was talking about how Ukraine would be able to get all of its territory back, and even added in like possibly some Russian territory. And we were like, what's going on with the change there? And then all of a sudden he had this phone call with Putin just prior to his meeting with Zelensky. And then his whole rhetoric changed again. He was no longer talking about tomahawks. Like everything was just completely changed after this phone call. Well, that phone call was set up by Steve Witkoff specifically to hinder that meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky, specifically to throw a fucking twig, a stick in the spokes of that bicycle. That's what that meeting, that's what that phone call was meant to do, right? Trump and Putin ended up speaking to each other the day before the U.S. president held White House talks with Zelensky. Shortly after that meeting with Zelensky on October 17th, Trump said that Ukraine and Russia would, quote, stop where they are on the battlefield, meaning Ukraine would concede territory Russia had seized from its neighbor. So you can see how different that is from what, he had just said, what was it, maybe weeks prior to that on Truth Social, which was obviously a 180 flip from, the deadlines and time extensions he had been given Putin in there. So he's been going back and forth, but you can see how Steve Witkoff knew if Vladimir Putin could speak to Donald Trump just before Zelensky was there, the last bug in Donald Trump's ear would be Putin. And that he would go into that meeting with, discrepancies, with I don't know what you'd want to say, but not wanting to give Zelensky what he wanted, right? It would change the mindset of Donald Trump just prior to the meeting, as opposed to what he was saying just before that phone call. October 29th, Ushakov spoke by phone with Kirill Dmitriev, which is the person that Steve Witkoff had originally texted and posted that this document, the original 28-point peace plan, came from, was originally written by or at least transferred by a close advisor to Putin on Ukraine, and debated how strongly Moscow should push for its demands in prospective peace prospective peace proposal. That's a tough one. According to another recording reviewed by Bloomberg, it says, quote, I'll informally pass it along, making it clear that it's all informal, and let them do it like on their own. Dmitry said, told Ushakov in the back and forth. But I don't think they'll take exactly our version, but at least it'll be as close to it as possible. So basically saying they're not going to accept this version, we don't think, but at least if we start off here, this is the baseline. That, like, remember how we said yesterday it's crazy? I thought it was crazy that the Europeans in the United States would even take this as the baseline to start the negotiations to work their way up from. But this is what this is saying. It's basically saying in black and white right here that they know this is going to happen. Okay, they may not accept this word for word, but what's going to happen, this will then be used as the baseline, which is already more favorable to Russia than it was, to even close to Ukraine. So that's how, again, he's coaching these people to get the most favorable, not helping our ally, not helping Ukraine, the country that was attacked, the country that was invaded, the country that has its sovereignty, under threat right now. Not that country, not the country we forced to give up their nuclear arsenal, in response for an agreement, a security agreement, saying that we would, protect them in the event of a Russian invasion, which is exactly what we're seeing. Not doing that. He's helping the Russians. He's coaching the Russians. Right. So he's helping the Nazis in this. If this was World War II, he'd be helping the Nazis. So basically, Witkoff is doing backdoor dealings with, Ribbentrop, right? That nobody should know about on WhatsApp, on secret phone calls that nobody's there for, that nobody's recording, right? That's what's going on in this right now. If you need kind of like an equivalency as to what's happening. The exchange happened soon after Dmitriev had traveled to Florida for talks with Witkoff. Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, now informal advisor that centered on creating the framework for a 28-point peace plan. So none other than Jared Kushner, the same guy that took $2 billion from the Saudi fucking, the Saudi prince that, chopped up Jamal Khashoggi, who was responsible for the dismembering of Jamal Khashoggi, right? Took his $2 billion and now is involved with making sure that this 28-point peace plan that came directly from Russia was used as the baseline for these negotiations. And now it's being said by Donald Trump that Jared Kushner, is going to be sent to Moscow with possibly Steve Witkoff to engage further in these talks, which is just fucking just goes to show the corruption in this fucking administration. It's more than we could ever have imagined. It's more than we ever could have possibly warned people about. The original plan, which became public last week, appeared heavily skewed toward Russian demands, you think, and included calls for Ukraine to cede the entire Donbas region to Russia and dramatically reduce the size of its military. It also included an agreement from Europe that Ukraine would never be allowed to join NATO. This story proves one thing. Special Envoy Witkoff talks to, that's basically a statement from Stephen Chung. He's an idiot. Don't need to read that. Dmitriev said in a social media post that the transcript was fake. Yet since then, it has been basically confirmed as all this has been real. The closer we get to peace, the more desperate warmongers come trying to, push the Russian propaganda line that this is all fake. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has insisted the proposal was authored by the United States with input from both Russians and Ukrainians in response to the bipartisan pushback in Washington. That leaked plan amounted to a Russian wish list. The State Department declined to comment on the Bloomberg report. On Tuesday, Trump said he was sending Army Secretary Dan Driscoll to meet with Ukrainian officials as Witkoff meets with Putin. Trump also suggested he could eventually meet with Putin and Zelensky, but not until further progress has been made in negotiations. And then we go on to, this kind of the deeper reporting into some of the transcripts here. This is on Twitter, on X by Adam Corcoran, and he's posting Katerina Lisanova. And she is a Ukrainian journalist. And he says, wow, the leak call logs show both that Witkoff committed treason by advising Russia how to get their way by outmaneuvering President Trump, and the, quote, peace proposal was authored and sent by the Russians, meaning Vance, Rubio, and Witkoff have all lied about its origin. So if we click on, this, and I can even show you here, just in case anybody, journalist and media advisor, Razom from Ukraine, former congressional correspondent from VOA, former BBC contributor. Here's her email. That's everything about her, in case you're wondering who we're talking about here, who we're looking at reporting from. She says, we now have official leak confirming that this is so-called peace proposal was completely fabricated by the Russians. The crazy part, the U.S. government even pretended to be the authors of this document when it was so obviously Russian. Even more astonishing, it became part of official discussions. The same thing that I was saying, right? Same thing that I was saying, how crazy it was that this document actually became the baseline for these discussions. And they were so obviously lying to all of us. So here's a part of a piece of the transcripts here. You could probably see it better the other way, huh? Probably see it better like that, where it says Ushikov, the man we were just talking, hello, and then Dmitriev, Yuri Viktorovich, yes, Kirillov Alexandrovich, we'll have sent everything there, we'll talk tomorrow. Well, great, yes, I flew to Saudi Arabia, but it seems to me it's very important because it's a really good way forward. Of course, they would think that. Well, we need the maximum, don't you think? What do you think? Otherwise, what's the point of passing anything on? No, look, I think we'll just make this paper from our position. I'll informally pass it along, make it clear that it's all informal, and let them do their own. But I don't think they'll take our exact version, same thing we just read, but at least it'll be as close as it is as possible. Well, that's exactly the point. They might not take and say it was agreed with us. That's what I'm afraid of. No. I'll say it exactly as you say it, word for word. They might twist it later. That's all. There is that risk. There is. Well, all right, never mind. We'll see. Yeah, it seems to me you can talk later with Steve Witkoff, about the paper. We'll do everything neatly. Unclear what he said next. Thank you so much, Yuri Viktorovich. Thank you so much. Thank you. Goodbye. Right? And then it goes on here where she talks about, I'm going through these let me put this on the screen. Where she also posts here, I'm going through these transcripts and honestly don't even know what to call the craziest part, because every line is insane. Witkoff was acting like a U.S. envoy to Russia. He was acting like a Russian intelligence asset who somehow infiltrated the White House. And now Donald Trump is facing very real challenge. Investigate this or risk having to pardon his own friend, because we already saw this stuff happening. Here's a small excerpt from the transcript. In an October phone call, Steve Witkoff tells Yuri Ushakov that any peace deal would require Russia gaining control over Donetsk. So that's Witkoff tells Yuri that any peace deal would require Russia gaining control over Donetsk. He also advises Ushakov on how to sabotage Zelensky's upcoming White House visit, like we just talked about, so Ukraine won't receive Tomahawks or any other military aid, right? So this is him talking about, this is Steve Witkoff. Maybe he says to the president, and we read this earlier, this is where he's coaching, talk about the 20-point peace plan, but it also goes on to say, to explore what it's going to take to get a peace deal done. Now, me to you, I know what it's going to take to get a peace deal done, Donetsk, and maybe a land swap somewhere, but I'm saying instead of talking like that, let's talk more hopeful. Let's talk more hopefully, because I think we're going to get a deal here. And I think, Yuri, the president will give me a lot of space and discretion to get the deal done. So that Steve Witkoff acknowledging to the Russians that Donald Trump would give him ample space and discretion to kind of, deal with Ukraine's territories, deal with their security guarantees in the future, kind of play around with all that in order to get this deal done. And then Yuri says, I see. Steve Witkoff goes on to say, so if we can create that opportunity that after this, I talked to Yuri and we had a conversation, I think that could lead to big stuff. Okay, that sounds good. Sounds good. And here's one more thing Steve Witkoff says. Zelensky is coming to the White House on Friday. Yuri chuckles. I know that. He says, I know that. Steve Witkoff goes on to say, I will go to the meeting because they want me there. But I think if possible, we have the call with your boss, Putin, before the Friday meeting. So not only in this one sentence, this one statement, is Steve Witkoff trying to convey that he doesn't want to be there with Zelensky. He doesn't want to be there at the meeting. He sees no benefit to it, but he's only going to be there because he says, because they want me there, right? I will go to that meeting because they want me there. So he's relaying that he doesn't want to go. He's relaying that he doesn't see any benefit to it. He doesn't want to be, basically in the same room with Zelensky. He's not on their side. He's trying to represent himself as purely on the Russian side, purely working on behalf of the Russians, and doesn't want to see as kind of playing both sides, which is exactly what he's not, what Trump tries to explain as his job is to do, right? But that's not what he's doing per these transcripts. So he says, Yuri says, before, yeah, like he's kind of questioning, like, you really want Putin to speak to Donald Trump before Zelensky's meeting on Friday? And then Steve Witkoff says, yes, correct. And then Yuri says, okay, I got your advice. So I discuss with my boss, and then I come back to you, okay? Obviously in broken English and Russian. And then Steve Witkoff goes on to say, okay, Yuri, I'll speak to you soon. Yuri says, great, thank you so much. Bye, right? So that couldn't be any more clearly represented right there as Steve Witkoff playing on the side, on the team of the Russians, making it very clear that he's on that side specifically and working towards the ends of a better agreement for that side alone. Okay, and that's somebody in the United States government working to help the enemy as opposed to the ally of the United States. And it's fucking wild. And obviously you can tell by, some of the comments here. But I mean, let me just show you. Does this sound to you? Does this sound to you like, before we go on to hear Donald Trump statements, but, I'll play just a couple minutes of this. Does this sound to you? And this is Russian Media Monitor with their translation of Russian state TV, obviously Solivov here speaking. Does this sound like somebody? Does this sound like a country? Does this sound like somebody that's getting the word from their government as state media, as state propaganda, that they're going to end this war, or they have any intentions on ending this war? Yeah, check this out. Listen to this shit.
Ох, конечно, забавно смотреть на эту истерику, которая пошла.
So basically he goes on, we don't have to watch the beginning, but he goes on to talk about the deal. Everyone's starting to say, what about us? Even their U.S. contacts saying, no, this is a Russian plan. So he's talking about the news, talking about Rubio coming out and saying that this is our plan after they talked about it was the plan of the Russians. So he's basically mocking the U.S. government here. But listen to his rhetoric afterwards.
Это не план русских. Мне еще понравился их
I
ответный
also
план,
like the
который они
plan
выдали.
they've lodged in response. Of course he would, because it's very beneficial to Russia.
Значит так, русские, значит, смотрите. Отдаете Запорожскую АЭС,
So he's talking about giving up the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant,
отдаете
giving up the Kakhovka Dam and the Kinburn Spit.
плотину Каховскую и Кинбургской косы. И мы тогда...
And then he says, I want to tell them, we can't hear you very well, right? So basically saying, shut the fuck up. Who do you think you're bossing around? Who do you think you are to make demands to us, right? This is what's going on. Listen to what he says next.
Мы плохо слышим. Давай, вот мы когда в
He
Париж
says,
войдем,
when we enter Paris, repeat it into this ear.
ты тут в это ухо повтори. А когда
When we enter Berlin, say it into this ear.
в это, ну, чтобы лучше слышно ваши писки.
So we can hear you squealing better. So basically talking still about going into Paris, going into Berlin, how Ukraine isn't the end goal. How they're not, like, they're already looking past Ukraine, or that's at least what he's trying to say in his message. Like, you guys think that you can just boss us around? Like, this is who we're dealing with right now. This is the country that we now think that we're going to agree to a peace deal with and take their word for it, take their empty, broken promises that we've seen broken time and time and time again by this country in different peace deals and agreements. And we're going to use that and just kind of say, okay, nope, we're going to use that going forward. And hopefully they mean it this time. Hopefully they'll hold their word this time. We promise. But, just a quick clip to show their true intentions, their true meaning. So they're still talking about going into greater Europe. They're still talking about, advancing well past Ukraine. So, just in case anybody's wondering about their true intentions or, if they're really, serious about peace. We talked yesterday about the recent strikes. I'm sure we could talk about last night's strikes that the Russians and Volodymyr Zelensky even brings that up in his statement. But yeah, let's look at Trump and what he had to say, because he was questioned pretty heavily on this subject on Air Force One. Pretty much all of the questions that he got in this little press conference, this little meeting that he had, this little gaggle, was on the subject of Ukraine. So what do you see if we can dive into just a couple of his answers, a couple of his responses, and a couple of the questions to see if we can kind of glean anything from this, if we can kind of understand what's going on, or if we can kind of call any of his bullshit out, as it being clearly Russian propaganda and him just on the side of Vladimir Putin. So what do you say we dive into just a minute of this, and then we'll go on here to Volodymyr Zelensky's video that he put out, the most recent video that he put out, and we can kind of take what he's saying and hear what he's saying and be like, okay, does that match up with the reporting from mainstream media that they had, outright agreed to a peace deal, and this is basically done, and all now he has to do is come and kind of tie a couple loose ends up? Because that's not what I'm getting. That's not the sentiment that I'm getting from the situation whatsoever. But yeah, let's dive into this asshole and see what we can call out. I appreciate it. Oh, wow. Oh, hey now, hold on. Good start. Now, I don't know. They'll probably say that was a little bit of turbulence there. I'm not so sure. That just might be Donald Trump just a bit unsteady in his old legs there. Check this out. Whoa, hey now. Oh. So you've been fucking hitting the sauce there, Chief. It looks like you've been hitting the sauce. I'm sure he'll blame it on the turbulence. All right, let's go.
Mr. President.
Okay, hello everybody.
Hello, Mr. President.
Hi, how are you? Hi. What would you like to know today?
Can you start off by telling us the latest one with Russia and Ukraine?
So basically the question, because it's a lot of the time it's hard to hear on Air Force One, but basically what's the latest on Russia and Ukraine is the question.
Visit you.
We're having good, I don't know, he would like to come, but I think we should get a deal done first. We're having good talks. We started with Russia. We're having some talks with Russia.
All right, so does anybody in the chat, and I'll give you guys a second, right? I'll give you guys a second. What in that last sentence really stands out to you? What in that sentence really stands out to you? And we'll play it one more time. I'll give you one more opportunity to hear it, and then I'll go back to the chat and ask you guys.
We started with Russia. We're having some talks.
One more time? How about one more time? All right, one more.
Visit you.
We're having good, I don't know, he would like to come, but I think we should get a deal done first. We're having good talks. We started with Russia. We're having.
It started with who? It started with who? Damon's spot on. It started with Russia. Okay, so we got Steve Witkoff actively coaching the Russians on how to get the most favorable treatment from from Trump. And then we got Trump here saying that this whole thing starts with Russia. So we got to go to Russia first. It was Russia first, not America first, not America's allies first, but Russia first in this instance. And you just heard it from the president's mouth. You're absolutely correct, Damon. Everybody else that said it. Yep. Everybody else that caught it as well. You're 100% right. And that's why you guys are the smartest, most brightest chat on the social media sphere, right? But listen, one more time, just in case you didn't hear it.
We're having good, I don't know, he would like to come, but I think we should get a deal done first. We're having good talks. We started with Russia. We're having some
started with Russia. I mean, if that's not a dead giveaway, I know it's a minute segment of a larger puzzle, right? A small piece of the larger puzzle, just a little slip of the tongue, but I think it is very telling. These little slips, these little fucking, the little brain farts that he has every now and again are very, very telling. It started with Russia. So long America first, so long America's allies, Welcome Russia back into the G8. Welcome back into the, the world economy. Let's do deals. Let's see how rich we can make Russia so they can build up their military and do this, I don't know, maybe 7 years from now, 10 years from now, once again. Fucking idiots.
With Russia. Ukraine is doing well. I think they're pretty happy about it. They'd like to see it end.
No, well, I mean, obviously that's bullshit, clearly. I mean, not the wanting to see it end part. Clearly they want to see it end, but they're not happy, right? I mean, I'll play, obviously we're going to play Volodymyr Zelensky's video next, and you guys can hear for yourselves. Does he seem pleased? Does he seem happy? Does he seem overjoyed? Does he seem, optimistic that this is coming to a favorable end for the people of Ukraine? I'll let you guys be the judge. Thank you, Mark. What's up, brother? Good to see you, my man. Good to see you. Appreciate you guys. All right, hit that like button. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. We're calling out Donald Trump's fucking Russian propaganda bullshit here on Air Force One. Thank you for watching. Thank you to everybody on this space as well.
And we won't know for a little while, but we're making progress.
What are the big sticks?
We settled 8 wars, and I thought this would be one of the easier ones because of my relationship with President Putin. But this is probably one of the more difficult ones. There's a lot of hatred.
I suppose you said there were a few points of disagreement that were still left to be.
Yeah, a few.
She says there's still a few points. You said there are still a few points of disagreement left. Can you give us what those points of disagreement are?
Those are.
Well, it's just standard things, but people are starting to realize it's a good deal for both parties. If they got to stop the war, they're losing a lot.
Not a good deal for both parties. I don't even know. I'll tell you right now, I don't know what the finalized deal, what deal he's even talking about. Things and reporting has been so confusing on this. Like yesterday, we talked about this, right? Yesterday, we played this on the show, which was, the full context, the full text of the European counterproposal to the original 28-point peace plan. And then we heard that there was a 19-point peace plan. And then we heard that it has changed even since then, because we reported yesterday, where was it? On this one, too, where it had changed from Ukraine can now keep the Donbas territory. They now have the option to join NATO in the future, and there's no limit on the Ukrainian military. But now, what is the text now? What has that been boiled down to? What have the changes? I don't know. I'm not sure, because the reporting is so fucking up in the air. It's all over the place that I can't even be really sure what the sticking points are, like what the exact points are at this moment. It's crazy. It's really pretty crazy.
People, a lot of soldiers, mostly soldiers.
In that 28-point plan that was originally leaked, there were some portions of that said that Ukraine.
Well, that was an original proposal, and then from there we went back and forth.
So when it comes to ceding land to Russia, is that still on the table, or has that changed?
Well, they're talking about going land both ways and trying to clean.
Oh my! They're talking about going land both ways, he says. So the question is basically, so are you still talking about, like, Ukraine having to secede land, giving up land? Well, what they're going to do, listen to this state, listen to this comeback from the president.
Went back and forth.
So when it comes to ceding land to Russia, is that still on the table, or has that changed?
Well, they're talking about going land both ways and trying to clean up a border.
They're talking about going land both ways and cleaning up a border. How about, how about the border of Ukraine? That would be fucking fantastic. That has already been well established, right? Like, how about we go back to that border? The border that was there, let's say 1991-ish, something like that. How about that one that was clearly established? And he goes on to talk about, it's going to be a little bit because they don't want to go through a house. They don't want to go through highways. All right, I can fix all of that. You know how you can fix all of that? You know how you can save a bunch of fucking time? Go back to the already agreed upon borders of you fucking Ukraine and Russia. How about that? That's just pretty simple. Again, these demands, the list of demands, and the fact that the Europeans, NATO, the U.S. doesn't have like a sheet ready to fucking go, like ready to hit send on the Xerox machine straight to the Kremlin that has just a long list of the demands that we have as the allied nations for them being the aggressor, like, is just mind-blowing to me. It really is. It's just mind-blowing to me. And that we're taking this document, the Russian document, and kind of, piecemealing it together in some sort of way, and using that as the baseline. It really is remarkable.
You can't go through the middle of a house. You can't go through the middle of a highway.
Which was, again, probably more reason why you just go back to the borders that they had already been established, right? That would be easy. Right, we know where they are. They know where they are. They know where they crossed them. We know where they crossed them. It's fucking pretty good. They're already drawn on all the maps. We wouldn't even have to redo all the maps in the world, Don. We wouldn't even have to do that. We could just keep the maps the way they were and just still go by the borders of Ukraine. And then there's the clearly defined outline of Russia. Like, it's pretty easy the way it works. But why we have to make it complicated and now go into be like, okay, let's not go into this house. That babushka doesn't want to have her house split into two. Like, what the fuck is he even talking about?
So they're trying to work something. It's a complicated process. Doesn't go that quickly.
What about security guarantees and?
Here he is being asked about security guarantees for Ukraine.
We're working that out with Europe.
What he does is he passes the buck to Europe. So it says nothing about, defined, clearly defined, explicit security guarantees from the United States that have been talked about. Like, who's working on this peace plan? Because this has fucking nothing to do with Trump. I can tell you that much. He didn't put a word into this. Mr. Top negotiator, Mr. I'll have this done in 24 hours, doesn't seem to know a damn fucking thing that's in any of these peace plans. Any of the deals, whether it's the 28, the 20, the 19, the 18, he doesn't know a fucking thing. And this is the top negotiator, Mr. Out of the deal here, right? Doesn't know a fucking thing. I can get him in a room here and get him in a room there. We'll have this thing done in 24 hours, all wrapped up. Oh, yeah, really? Yeah, give me 1 point in the peace plan that's actively written out. No, nothing. You don't know a fucking thing? Yeah, I didn't think so.
Largely involved in that. We're working that out with Europe. Europe really wants to see it end if possible.
Europe really wants to see it end if possible. So everybody wants to see it end if possible. We're just not trying to throw Ukraine even further under the bus while stopping it, right? Like, this is not ended at all cost by any means necessarily by giving up as much fucking territory, reducing your military by as much as possible. Like, that's not going to put. Like, we're talking about Versailles Treaty type shit where you're just making it more inevitable that these two sides kick off in the future, right? Whether or not we're letting Russia back in the G8 or, with more economic deals with the United States so they can become a more powerful country to rebuild their military, to do this again, while at the same time putting Ukraine on the back foot, taking territory from them. Ukraine's now forced to give up a certain percentage of, the economy and the earnings to the United States to help rebuild. Like, we're putting them on the back foot. We're making it so that they have no choice but to fight in the future for their fucking land, to get their land back so that they can have a functioning country. I mean, it just was setting things up. It's a setup for disaster is what it is.
Republicans who felt that the first 28-point plan was too favorable to Russia. Have you changed that?
Well, that was just a map. All that was is a map. That was not a...
You guys caught that, right? You guys caught that? One more time. So the question is, a lot of people thought, and I think she says, politicians thought that the original 28-point peace plan was too favorable to Russia, right? His response was, it was a map. It was a map. So the map was the Russian wish list. The map, this document that has been so heavily fucking worked on and fought over, and so many meetings and discussions and phone calls and messages back and forth, if you want to hear or listen to what these assholes say in this administration, has gone, and all that came from it was the need to have the Russians write an entire document of their wish list, and then we can use that as the roadmap going forward. They were so stuck in the mud. They had no idea how to fucking maneuver or move forward in this process. They are now relying upon the Russians to write the entire document so they could use that as the baseline. And then they did it. Ugh.
Republicans who felt that the first 28-point plan was too favorable to Russia. Have you changed that?
Well, that was just a map. All that was is a map. That was not a plan. It was a concept. And
Jesus Christ. So more concepts. Wasn't a plan. We just have more concepts. So the 28-point peace plan wasn't a plan. It was a roadmap. It was concepts, Russian concepts, and a Russian roadmap. But I guess that's neither here nor there to Donald Trump in this aspect. But yeah, do you hear? I hope you hear what you're hearing. I hope you know what you're hearing. I hope you recognize what you're hearing from the president here, and how remarkable this is, and how crazy and not the way we do things, and ass backwards this is. Like, we have a clear and defined ally in the fight, a clear and defined enemy in this fight. And who are we helping? Who are we benefiting? Who are we working tirelessly to get the most favorable outcome for? Not the ally, the enemy. And we're seeing it here in broad daylight, and he's excusing it, he's justifying it. clearly just said that the map, the Russian wish list, a Russian document that originally came out in fucking Russian, was the roadmap that the United States used to further these negotiations. Right? And he wouldn't know a map if it bit him in the ass, right? He wouldn't know a fucking map if it bit him in the ass. If I showed Donald Trump this fucking map right now, he couldn't tell me what country he was looking at. He wouldn't know what the fuck he was looking. He wouldn't know what planet it was. Right? So he's talking about maps and shit. And I know he didn't mean this specific map, but you would think, right? The United States president would be more, in tune to what's going on the ground, would be looking at maps, would be discussing the positions of the military and where it could go, where it might lead to, how we could get out of situations like that, how we can help our allies. But Donald Trump, if this fucking map bit him in the ass, he wouldn't know what happened. Maps. Fuck you and your maps.
There, they're taking each one of the 28 points, and then you got down to 22 points. A lot of them were solved, and actually very favorably solved. So we'll see how we'll see.
Favorably to who? Favorably to whom? Because it sure as fuck wasn't to Ukraine. And again, what are the chances that we think that Russia will agree to anything that these points are involved in, right? Do we think Russia is going to agree to a 19-point peace plan that has Ukraine keeping the Donbass, Ukraine joining with the ability to join NATO, and Ukraine having no limit on their military? After we saw on their document, they want to limit it to 600,000, right? They want to take over the Donbass. They want Ukraine to enshrine in its constitution that it will never join NATO. Does this sound like something? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know which reporting to believe at this point. It's crazy. I want to see the specific and distinct plan. I want to know what the finalized last version is. And, until I see that, it's going to be very difficult, kind of to decipher, what Ukraine should do, really, you know what I mean? Which is why I think Volodymyr Zelensky is so desperate to come in and have a meeting with Trump before this gets, any worse, right, than it already is, and to try to figure out what the fuck's going on. What are we agreeing to here? Why is this being used as the baseline? Are you serious about kind of forcing us to this? It was a Thanksgiving deadline before. Now that kind of seems up in the air. If you listen to Donald Trump, doesn't seem like he's talking about that deadline anymore. So a lot of back and forth on this, a lot of fog of war, a lot of obfuscation from the Trump administration and the Russians, trying to get information out of the Trump regime, trying to get information, correct information, factual information from the Russians. We're dealing with the Russians and the Trump regime. How the fuck it's damn near impossible to get the true fucking reality of what's going happening on the ground or behind the scenes. So you got to have to sift through the different pieces and bits of reporting and kind of put that together. And somewhere in the middle is what's really happening. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. Different instances, different fucking stories and ways to kind of put this together. But what do you say? Let's dive into. We don't need to hear any more of that. He just goes on to further defend his positions there without knowing actually anything about what's happening. But let's take a look at Zelensky's statements here. And again, this is the latest video that I could find from Zelensky that he posted. This was 22 hours ago. He says, we worked with the Ukrainian negotiating team today on the next document prepared with the United States in Geneva. The principles in this document can be developed into
сьогоднішній день. Від ночі доповіді військових МВС.
You know what? I'll just let him say it. He can say it better than I can anyway. All right, let's dive into it. I'm going to start it from the beginning. And, Les, I want you to kind of pay attention to the tone. Pay attention to what he's saying. I'll get out of the way so that you can see the subtitles. I'll also read them out just in case anybody is just listening and not watching. But yeah, listen, does this sound like he's extremely optimistic for this deal that has supposedly been proposed? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it to me. I'm still highly skeptical, especially after hearing the recent reporting of Witkoff as been on Team Russia this whole time, as we kind of figured. All right, let's dive into it.
Бажаю здоров'я. Важкий довгий сьогоднішній день.
This has been a long and difficult day.
Ночі доповіді
Since
військових
tonight, I've received reports from the military,
регіонів по нашій
Ministry of Affairs, and our countermeasures against the Russian strike,
протидії російському удару та по нашому
and on our recovery efforts.
відновленню. Масований
It was a massive attack, and it's particularly cynical.
був удар.
So again, talking about more Russian attacks on Ukrainian civilians, on Ukrainian citizens, night after night. And he's talking about how cynical it is to, continuously have these attacks as they're speaking about peace, on the same hand, at the same time.
Особливо цинічно, що Росія завдає
He says it was a massive attack and it was extremely cynical that Russia carries out such attacks while discussions
таких ударів, коли тривають розмови щодо того,
on how to end the war are
як
ongoing.
закінчити війну. Америка
America is very active, Europe is too, and so are our other partners.
дуже активна, і Європа дуже активна, також інші наші партнери. У всіх
Everyone shares the same agenda. Again, this is what he kind of has to do, what he has to say in his role as president of Ukraine. He still has to do this, the diplomatic nonsense where he knows what he's saying is probably nonsense, considering he knows Donald Trump, Steve Witkoff, and the rest of them don't have the same agenda. But again, he's playing the role. He's playing the part as a leader. He's playing the part as a dignitary, as a head of state here, trying to keep his allies and his friends as close as humanly possible, even, when the people leading those countries don't have the best intentions.
один порядок денний, і тільки у Москви
And only Moscow invariably keeps the war going against
незмінно
Ukraine.
війна проти України залишається першим пріоритетом для них. Удари, як
Strikes like the one today confirm this.
сьогодні, це підтверджують. І тому для нас
Therefore, for all of us, it is extremely important
всіх надзвичайно важливо не забувати
not to forget the real situation, not to forget
реальну ситуацію, не забувати, що відбувається
not to
тут,
forget what is happening here and now, and to counter Russian strikes.
тут і зараз, і протидіяти російським ударам. І, звісно,
Of
протидіяти
course, counter them 24/7.
24/7. 24/7 українські представники працюють з
Ukrainian representatives are working with the United States 24/7,
Америкою і з тими, хто
as well as with those who can help ensure truly real,
може допомогти, щоб були дійсно реальні, ефективні кроки для
effective
закінчення
steps to ending this war.
цієї війни. Так само 24/7.
Likewise, we are doing everything 24/7 to ensure our army
Робимо все, щоб у нашої армії, щоб у наших
and
людей
our people have the same means to defend themselves. Today, a meeting of the coalition of the willing took place. I want to primarily thank Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer, and Friedrich Merz for co-organizing it. There were nearly 40 participants. Europe, the United States, Canada was present, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. That unites us all in that we must coordinate our diplomacy in a very substantive way, taking into account the interest, and we remember now is not the time to relax. Let our guard down. We must not lose our unity. We simply cannot. We must now defend against Russian strikes. We must ensure Ukraine's resilience. Air defense is necessary. I want to thank each partner for joining the Pearl Initiative, which enables us to procure American weapons, including missile for the Patriot missile systems. Last night, our air defense performed quite well, intercepting cruise missiles as well as ballistic missiles. Over 400 attack drones were also shot down. To be capable of doing this, we need the appropriate resources, and together with our partners, we are ensuring that our state also today, Ukraine adopted new sanctions, new decisions on ships taking Ukrainian grain from occupied territories. And some of these ships have already been sanctioned by our partners, but not all of them. Every Russian crime must receive an appropriate response, and sanctions are the most immediate reaction. During the day, I spoke separately to the Chancellor of Germany and the President of Finland. We also worked with the Ukrainian negotiating team today on the text of the document prepared with the United States in Geneva. It can be developed into deeper agreements, and it is our shared interest that security is real. I count on continued active cooperation with the American side and President Trump because it's America's strength that Russia takes seriously. I thank everyone who stands with Ukraine. I thank everyone who is helping. I want our strength. Our strength is in diplomacy to be effective. Glory to Ukraine. So nowhere in that, he says they're working on it. He says he sent his team. Their team is working on the document. They're working to try to figure things out. But in no way does this seem like they have already agreed to anything, right? Because is that something that we can kind of all agree upon here in the chat? Like this was like heavily and widely reported yesterday all over the place, as we showed, that it was like already a done deal, agreed upon, it's set in stone. That's not what I'm getting from this. That's not what I was thinking was happening. That's not what I thought was going to happen. That's not the way that I thought it was going to go. And it doesn't seem to be going that way at all. And, just to kind of show you, I might be taking a little bit of a risk here doing this, but, just to show you the realities and the brutality and what's actually going on the front lines, what's actually taking place. And I'll throw this on here too. Just before we dive into this video, just to kind of give you another update, because this is a day on from yesterday, and you can see here as we dive into the Pokrovsk area. So if I go into yesterday, if you take a look at this area right here, you can see just the recent advancement of the Russian military in, just another area of the city of Pokrovsk. So if we go back to the 25th as opposed to the 24th, you can see that area filling in red there, right here. So that's from yesterday till today. But again, still, not actively in covered in red is the entire city, which was reported by the Russians. So, again, that's why we continuously keep our eye on that area as well as other areas as well. We got the 506th motorized rifle regiment here from the Russians, striking back, looks like, east into Pokrovsk. Different organizations here. I think this is the 1441. One's the 1506, I think. 30th, 71st. They must be on the other side. But yeah, all right. Just so you can kind of get an update, an idea, an update as what's been going on, at least overnight, day by day. That's why I like this deep state map, because you can kind of go day by day and kind of see what's progressing, who's progressing, and where they are progressing. All right, so let's dive into this. Hopefully, I'm not taking too much of a risk with this one, but just to kind of give you a little bit of a reality check on what's going on, what we're actually fighting for, as people like Steve Witkoff are throwing the Ukrainian military, the Ukrainian citizenry, and Volodymyr Zelensky under the bus. So this is the most recent frontline documentary titled 2,000 Meters to Andriivka. This is, a frontline PBS special. But yeah, just the beginning. I just want to play the beginning of this. It's an hour and 47 minutes long. I would absolutely implore you, if you have the time, if you're looking to get more educated, if you're looking to see what these people go through on the front lines, then I would definitely recommend this. If you watch something like 20 Days in Mariupol, any of the great documentaries that have come from this horrendous and horrific battle so far, then I would definitely recommend and tell you to take the time to watch this. But I just want to play the first kind of couple minutes to this to give you an idea of what we're actually fighting for, what we're talking about in these negotiations, how willing the Ukrainians are still to fight for their land, and whether or not they're willing to give it up, and not just have Donald Trump and Steve Witkoff tell Russia that, we'll just give it away for them, right? So this is, again, 2,000 Meters to Andriivka, the frontline PBS documentary, credit where credit is due, for educational purposes only, to give people an update on what's happening in the front line. So again, this is important to, again, not only figure out and talk about what's going on in the negotiations, but also keep our mind focused on what's happening on the front lines, what these men and women are going through on a daily basis, and how willing they are to continue to fight on a daily basis for their homeland. All right, so let's dive into it. So again, yes, I probably should say viewer discretion is advised, but I don't see why it would be a problem. This is posted on YouTube, so as long as I say this program contains graphic language and imagery, may not be suitable for all audiences, viewer discretion is advised, I think I should be all right. So it starts off saying here, in case you're just listening, there were many words that you could not stand to hear, and finally the only names of places had dignity. Ernest Hemingway, 1929.
Снимаешь?
Да.
Сними, какой я красивый.
Я только для этого включил.
Да. Глаза. Слезы.
Пару.
Ты меня не ищи. Я страдаю.
Горячо, горячо. Сука. Сука, блядь. Ага.
Можно терпеть бесконечные унижения.
Я тебе отдаю свой ствол. Отдаю ГПшку.
Але
Ой-ой-ой.
будьте уважні, тримайтесь, хлопці.
FPV, мужики, FPV.
Мороз. Якщо
Вон, полетел.
You can see the FPV drone just in this area right here. It's coming down.
Блядь.
So that ended up coming down on another Ukrainian position. Obviously, one of his, a couple of his comrades there in another position.
Давай сюда.
One of the survivors comes running over.
Прилетай.
Я охуел, подивіться, що
Says, I'm in shock. Go see what happened to the guys.
Я вперед.
Давай, Жорика, посмотри. Дивіться яйця.
Again, I'll skip past the part where he goes over, but he finds two of his comrades in the hole that have been killed from that FPV drone strike. But again, look at the area there. I mean, just look at how beat up the trees are. Nothing left. I mean, this is just what it's actually like, what they're actually going through as people are selling them out. As the United States is selling them out on the backdoor dealings that they have. But yeah, this is I don't want to get into too much just in case, I run the risk of, I know we played 20 days in Mariupol on here before, and that was all right. But just in case, since we're simulcast on this space, I don't want to take too many risks here. But, just to kind of, I'll slow roll through it. But I mean, look at the area that they're in. And it's intense. It's real. It shows them here trying to get into an APC. The APC actually is stuck, or it has some mechanical failure where it can't go anywhere. They're under attack. They end up having to retreat out of the APC as it's under attack. Just not a good situation at all, but definitely, straight from, the firsthand account, straight from the helmet cams, straight from the words themselves, translated for you. All of these harrowing accounts, all of these people and what they've been through, what they continuously go through on a daily basis. And again, I would definitely highly recommend anybody that has the time or the inclination to definitely check this documentary out. But just be prepared. It is very real. They don't sugarcoat. They don't cut anything out. They show you it as it happens, when it happens, how it happens, what they actually have to deal with, people, different soldiers telling their comrades to leave them, forget about them, their comrades having, the wherewithal to telling them, people, hey, shut up, we ain't going nowhere without you, we're coming back, we'll be right back for you, don't think about that. So, again, I would definitely advise anybody that has, an interest, a passion to support the people, the men and women of Ukraine, to support democracy, around the world, then, definitely to figure out what's happening, to put yourself in their shoes for at least an hour and 47 minutes. I would definitely recommend checking that one out. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. I really do. I know we're running out of time here in the first hour on the early show here, but we do have our 8:30 show tonight coming up, 8:30 on the East Coast, 5:30 here on the West Coast. I really do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much to everybody on this space. Thank you to Matt and all the mods over there. You guys are fantastic. Again, as I always say, I'm very grateful, very appreciative to be a part of that coalition. So I'm going to kick it over to my main man, Jeff Waldorf, now over there on this space. I really do appreciate you guys, and I we'll see you guys next Wednesday on this space. If you're here for Blunt Politics, make sure you stick around so I can thank you. But Jeff, take it away. Make sure you kick some ass, brother. I appreciate you. All righty. All right. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate it. I wish I had, I usually don't try to, on the early show, dive too deeply into those type of things because I know I get rambling, I get talking, I get heated, I get fucking animated, and it takes too long. But this was just too much of a bombshell, too spot on with what we have been talking about here on Blunt Politics and what we have been calling, and telling you to look out for that. I had to dive into it before it got too late. I hate being the last one reporting on shit, so I want it to be ahead of the game at some point. But yeah, let's see if we can get into thanking some people. Anybody that was kind enough to shoot over $1 or $2 over on the old Venmos, or if it was $1 or $2 here on the old. You guys really are fantastic. I appreciate you. Thank you, Thomas, and thank you to my lovely and beautiful sister Kelly, sending me a birthday gift. You didn't have to do that. But thank you, Thomas. I really do appreciate you. And again, everybody from yesterday, Jamie, Suzanne, Travis, Elaine, Jim, Suzanne, Johanna, Jamie, Nancy, Linda, Damon, Jenny, Ricky, all of you guys. Thank you for making it a wonderful birthday. I really do appreciate it. I still, kind of have to pinch myself, as slow as the going is, right? As tough as it is building your own channel here on YouTube, especially dealing with politics and not something, more fun to get involved in. It's still shocking. I'm still, I still have to pinch myself that every time I kind of hit that live button that I still see people show up in the chat. Like there are still real people who show up to watch me say shit, which is, again, I still have to pinch myself, regardless if it's one person or 150,000. It doesn't matter. I still am very appreciative of you guys and your time. So let's get into thanking some people here on the old YouTubes. I know you guys had a big day yesterday, so I know you're probably all tapped out today, but I appreciate it. Thank you, Laurie. Happy belated. She says, I missed your day. No, you didn't. You're all set. Don't worry about it. You didn't miss anything. You're right here, right now, which is all that matters. So thank you for the 5. I appreciate you, Laurie. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, Graham. Congratulations on being here for 20 months. I hope you have a wonderful week with your family. We will be here tomorrow, though. We will be on tomorrow. I know tomorrow, Thanksgiving, but, as long as it doesn't interfere with your plans, I'm just going to pop on and we can kind of chat, shoot the shit, and say happy Thanksgiving to one another tomorrow, if you don't mind. But thank you, Gramps. Happy Thanksgiving as well. Michael, I appreciate you, brother. Love that accent, Brian. I assume it's a Boston accent. You assume right, brother. You assume right. It's a good call. That's a good call. And I very much appreciate the $2.99. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your participation in the show. It means a lot, and it goes a long way in helping the old algorithm show other people that we're here. So thank you very much. Mark as well. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you, brother. Russia, America last Trump. Sounds right to me. Might as well. I think he already has a shirt that says that, to tell you the truth, Mark. It's on sale now. Mark again here with Putin will not honor any deal. Right. I mean, it's just, we're living in like fantasy world here. We are. I don't know where, like, what's happened to the media. I don't know, like, what's happened to people all of a sudden where they're like all of a sudden thinking that Putin is going to like agree to something that's favorable to Ukraine. Again, as we're seeing, like, and again, I use this, right? I put this on, and I use this as, like, obviously not to gloat, just to show you what's happening on the front lines, but also to be like, why would Putin at this moment right now, right, when he probably has, more leverage in this situation that he's had in a long time, why would he now decide to give into, something that's favorable to you? Like, it doesn't make any sense at this point. So, even using the map and what's happening in Pskrovsk and the dire situation that, the Ukrainian military seem finding themselves in that area, like, it doesn't seem like they're, we have done enough to push Putin and Russia onto the back foot that would, allow them or, force them to be, or pressure them to accept, terms that are unfavorable to them. While, favorable to Ukraine, again, the country that was attacked, the country that was originally, invaded, right? So, it's kind of crazy how that's gone along too. But I appreciate you guys. Let's see here. Who did I start off with? Mark. Mark, again, Mark, you just been fucking killing it here, brother. I appreciate you, man. Single-handedly almost keeping the show going. No, I'm kidding, but I appreciate you, dude. Boston Brian, keep calling it out like it really is. Viva la democracy. I appreciate you. I am here trying to do exactly that, Mark, and I plan to be here for as long as you guys will have me, as long as you guys will support me, and as long as I'm on the right side of history. Then that's how I'll be here. So I appreciate you. Chantel, what's going on? Good to see you guys again. Thank you so much for the contribution. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate you. I'll let you guys go. I know you got a ton of shit to do. I know it's a busy week. Friends, family, everybody in the area, people to cook for, people to shop for, people to drive around, other creators to watch, other creators to support. So I'll let you go. I'll see you later tonight, 8:30 on the East Coast, 5:30 here on the West Coast for the next episode of Blunt Politics. I'm Boston Brian. I really do appreciate you. Stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive. And again, I'll see you in tonight's show, right? Oh, thank you, Benny Loco. Thank you, Benny Loco. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. I appreciate you so much. It's very good to see you. I hope you're well. Must be you too, Linda. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Carol. Forever Young. Thomas. What's up, brother? Happy Thanksgiving, dude. Back off. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Rock. Thank you, Canada. Really do appreciate you guys. Everything that you do. Happy Thanksgiving, game. Roy and Slava, Mad Max. Get back to you, Veronica. I'll try, Freddie. I appreciate you. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Pops. Love you. I'll pass it on. Yeah. Hey. Settle the fuck down there, Chief. Settle down. Don't age me too quickly here. I love you. I'll talk to you later. You're more than welcome, Matt Mac. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cosby. Thank you, John. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Masha. Have a great day. I appreciate you. I'll see you later, all right? Peace.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
No words. I have the best words. But there's no better word than stupid.
Oh, go fuck yourself.
We always do about this time.
When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they... Yesterday's a hard word for me. The big, fat, sloppy United